Hey folks, it's us, podcasting wonderkins John Bishop and Lucas Southworth.
Although this is a podcast about cars, it is not age appropriate for the target demographic of these films, as we usually end up talking about the reproductive organs of Lightning McQueen.
Alright, now let's take a look under the hood. Carry on, my wayward son.
There'll be peace when you are dead and driving for 40 years? I don't know how long. That was way too long of a drive.
Yeah, it seemed like a while, but time works differently up here, says Bobby Singer. We're talking about Supernatural today. Wait, we didn't do the thing. Hello, welcome to the chat. It's the only podcast brave enough to ask the question, hey, what's up with cars? I'm Lucas Southworth, he's John Bishop. We watched the Supernatural finale. We did.
Yeah, we did. And they did the thing.
They did. Are you referring to just, I don't know.
Letting them stay dead?
Oh, yeah, that's something. Listen, we've sort of danced around this in our preamble. I just want to go ahead and get out of the way opinions on the finale of Supernatural, a show I think both of us stopped watching about 5 years ago, if not more.
Yep.
Okay. I think we should carve out maybe, I don't know, a minute and a half for that. We can just sort of talk over each other. I'm going to give you a warning. Mine are going to be mostly negative.
Okay.
Not saying if you were a big fan of the Supernatural and or the finale. Also, we're going to spoil just everything about the ending of this show if you have any interest in that, just as a preamble. But I'm going to start a timer. I think we should just both say things we thought about the finale for about, I don't know, minute and a half. Sound good to you?
Sure.
Okay, starting now.
Really,
Dean
so bad.
died because the piece of metal
gets stuck in the back and he dies. He didn't even ask Hank to call the ambulance.
And like the thing is, like they fought so many monsters and like killed him with the metal sticking out of the pole. And like Dean had such a journey of like, I don't know, he started wanting to die and like feeling that could be his piece, you know?
You know how
like,
in How Many Brothers they did that thing where they're like, oh, we realized we're like this, we're making going. Well, it was really troubling because like obviously they knew how they wanted to end, and then they just kept going. But this happened the same, except it was for 10 years for this show. It was 7 seasons. It was supposed to be 93, but they did it for 15 seasons with the show. That's ridiculous. And they just wanted to kill him off at the beginning. They just did it now, and they just made it. Oh, he's dead. Somehow. I don't know who Jack is. Jack got him out. Jack is the new god because they did in fact kill God.
Oh, cool. Whatever.
And they didn't kill God. They did kill God.
Castiel changed everything about the show. He was so important. He wasn't even in the finale. He was mentioned twice. Also, their bad father is like cool now, I guess. Whatever. That's a minute and a half. We can't talk anymore about what we thought about the finale.
Okay.
I feel like that was cathartic.
You said something right at the end that got me going again.
No, I know, man. That was a big thing that I remembered right at the end. But we said we would get it out and then talk about cars.
Okay.
At the very least, we both just liked the show. It meant something to both of us for a long time, and watching the finale was a trip after stopping watching it 5 years ago. So.
Oh boy.
But the thing is, the car did go to heaven.
True.
Okay.
Here's my theory.
Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
That's the original car.
Sure.
It died in like season 3 or whatever.
Okay.
Remember that episode where they're just driving and then all of a sudden like a semi truck
they get hit by a semi.
Sideswipes them, and they should all have died immediately at that moment, but they didn't.
Okay.
So yeah, that car's dead. And then they revived it and like just rebuilt it, which very much like a Christine situation is like, oh, that's not worth doing. You're spending way too much money, time, and effort on this car that, like, I don't know if it even has salvageable parts. But they did it, which, at that point, no, do not do that. That is a dumb thing to do. Every single component of that vehicle was likely completely destroyed. Like, there was nothing salvageable about it. There's no reason to spend time, money, effort on fixing that. Just get a new one and work on that.
But, John, it's like important and represents Dean's unhealthy relationship with his father a lot of the times.
I think it represents like Dean as a person.
Represents their home. It represents a lot of things. But
Mm-hmm.
in case you haven't heard, Supernatural ended. In it, as we said, we're not going to get a lot into just it was a bad finale. If you liked it, again, that's fine. We did not. Uh, or how they had Castiel confess his love 2 episodes ago and then nothing happened. I will say really quick, if you want to watch a really great video, if you're like, I don't understand what this means, or I just want this broken down, there's like an hour and 45-minute video on YouTube by a YouTuber called Sarah Z that just explains the history of Dean and Castiel, Destiel, and why fans are so upset. That was like weirdly captivating for being an hour and 45 minutes long.
Mm.
But importantly, Dean, one of the two main brothers in the show Supernatural, died in the finale and his car followed him to heaven. And that's going to be sort of the crux of this episode. Just talking about what that means. Thank you to both Danny and Al who asked us to do this episode about this. Both of them tweeted at our account and were desperate for more information about it.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, okay. Fair enough.
Also, real quick, shout out to number one fan Faith, who we
Happy
used to watch
birthday.
this show with. Happy birthday. I assume that she feels pretty similarly about Supernatural to how we do nowadays. But yeah, we're doing it on your birthday.
I feel like she's got a lot more animosity towards it.
Yeah, if I'd have to guess,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that would be my guess. But happy birthday, Faith. Sorry.
Happy birthday.
I think one thing that's really important right off the bat to get into is I feel like the instinct of a lot of people is to say, well, no, the car didn't go to heaven. He was in heaven, so there was like a heavenly reconstruction of his car, like or something like that.
In
Uh,
heaven, there is the things that you desire and the things that make you happy. So, of course, his favorite vehicle that he spent way too much everything on is going to be there.
but John's already gone into one really, really good way that I think the car could have fully ascended into heaven that I do want to get more into. But also, Dean, the way Dean treats it, it's not like he's like, oh, a car. He goes up and he says, hey, baby, to it, which is what he calls the car. I don't like saying that very much, so I'm going to refer to it mostly as the car or the Impala. But no, that we know that it has a name and that it's baby, and he acts like, oh, this is the car. It's not a reconstruction, it's not a fabrication, it's not an imitation, it is my car. And I think that in of itself is huge evidence that it's just, the car gone to heaven.
Now, the evidence we have that it's not, in fact, that car is the fact that Sam on Earth still has the other one.
No, that's pretty important. The car is still on Earth. Also, the car
And
is
in
still on
very
Earth.
good condition. Like, a condition that doesn't make any sense, seeing as how this car has died, and also is at this point, like at the very end, what? Oh shoot, probably a good 100 years old.
Yeah, it's a 67, isn't it?
Yeah, 67 Impala.
So right now it would be like it would be 53 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
And while Dean is taking his road trip through heaven, it also shows Sam aging, getting an unnamed wife. Way to go. You're always great with women. Supernatural. Just blurry in the background, putting on a bad wig to show that he aged and then dying of old age. So I would say that's an extra, I don't know, at least 30, 40 years on it. I think you're about right when you said that earlier. So yeah, car's about 90, 80 or 90.
So, okay, there's so many things to talk about that we shouldn't talk about.
I know, but
How old was Sam when he died? Because, like, obviously, they're not great with making him actually look old. But, like, he looked maybe like he was, like, mid 60s.
yeah, I
His
could
son was,
believe.
like, maybe 30 something.
Yeah, I could believe like in his 70s, just because I don't know. Sam is Jared Padalecki, and like would look good old, and in the universe is a like demon and monster hunter, so would keep up his health pretty well even into old age.
Yeah, the
So would
episode
look
starts with him
decently well.
exercising.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would say he was maybe 70s ish would be my guess.
Okay, the way they explained his death is they just showed him laying down and then his body just gives out.
Yeah,
And we don't know why.
yeah. After his son gave him permission to die,
Yeah, which is mirroring the fact that that happened straight up to Dean is
it
that
happened.
he said, "I need you to tell me it's okay and that I can let go." And then Sam was like, "Oh, sure." And then he did. He just died.
It happened before the first rendition of "Carry On, My Wayward Son." It was in between the two separate renditions of "Carry On, My Wayward Son"
There were only two?
that
I
I
thought it was just
noticed.
kind of going the entire episode.
May have been, and they just turned it up a little bit during that scene. But no, they were right back to back too. We can't. I know I'm breaking my own rule more than you. Uh, but even if we don't go, the car died 12 seasons ago.
Boy,
Which
howdy, that was 12 seasons ago.
most, there are shows that I love that go 2 or 3, and Supernatural went 15, huh? But
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think so much supernatural nonsense has happened to this car that we can explain it in any number of ways. I kind of want to go through all the stuff that's happened to the car real quick because I went through. This will be, I guess, the wiki quote of the day, but it's supernatural of the day.
Okay. Give me that Sam and Dean of the day.
I went through on supernatural.fandom.com/wiki/the_impala and just went through and marked down as many different supernatural things that have happened to this car, like otherworldly things. Besides it going to heaven in the final moments of the show, it's been possessed by multiple ghosts. I think 2 to 3.
Okay.
Uh, one
Okay.
in the pilot, which man, I don't remember the pilot to Supernatural very well. Apparently,
Good point. That was a different show, though.
yeah, Monster of the Week. They tried to harken back to it, but no, we're not going to do this. Chuck calls it the most important car, no, the most important object in the universe in the season 5 finale. And Chuck later is revealed to be God. We don't have time to get into that.
I
Uh,
will say, though, they do, in fact, kill slash not kill, but really kill God.
yeah, but then there's a new one, so it's fine.
They jump
Uh,
so many sharks. They kill Death.
oh man, yeah, I remember that. Which seemed I Death was such a cool character. Whatever. Sam gets turned into the Impala at one point by Kate Gabriel, the trickster angel, as a homage to Knight Rider.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Apparently, and this was after all of these have been while I was watching, so I like know the context and can say them better. But this one I don't really get. Apparently, God just teleported it once. They drove it into the darkness's lair, and it went bad, and God just teleported it out of there. So there's some God energy in there.
The darkness is God's twin sister, I think.
Oh, cool. Man, what a bonkers show. And also, it got transported with Sam and Dean into the Scooby Doo universe.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And real quick,
Okay.
I just want to, before we get into all that, none of that was really a wiki quote, and I get that. So I'm going to give you a funny one. There's a section here called Memories It Holds, which is very dramatic and on brand for Supernatural. And most of it's like, oh, there's like a toy soldier in it that like caused Sam to reject Lucifer, and that's why it's the most important object in the universe. That's why Chuck called it that.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite one here is Sam had sex with a waitress in the back seat. So
Huh.
that's a that's another I assume equally important memory it holds.
Yep, that is another reason it is the most important object in the universe.
Okay,
All
so
right. So let's talk
bunch of
about
stuff has happened to this car.
all of the theories we're gonna go with of how
Yeah,
this thing could have had a soul.
Yeah, this is an origin or engines story. If we didn't say that, it's
All right.
in the title, but that's what it is.
So one thing is if you're connecting it to the Cars universe, the way a car gets a soul is by adopting the soul of the person who last wrote it. But in the supernatural universe, it could be that it's possessed. Who died in this vehicle? Not exactly their dad, but kind of their dad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That
Uh,
previously mentioned car crash where a semi hit them. Their dad died because of it.
that's true. And again, as I said, it's been possessed by 2 to 3 random ghosts and a different. If I remember right, there was a different truck who was possessed by just like a racist guy in an early season. Uh,
I
and that was
think I remember that.
that was just a different thing that happened. So cars getting possessed by ghosts, either temporarily, in the case of the Impala, or just it's their permanent vessel in the case of the racist truck, is a thing.
That brings us to our fun fact of the day.
Go for it, Johnny.
Uh, okay. Never mind. I'm gonna pull a switcheroo. Uh,
Sure, man.
time for our wiki quote of the day.
That's my thing, but okay, I guess. Give me that stolen of the day.
Uh, I miss conversations that didn't start with this killer truck. Sam Winchester, season 1, episode 13, Route 666.
Ah, was that? Was named Route 666. That's clever.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a racist truck in an episode in season 1.
So right from the bat, we didn't need to wait until the car went to heaven. But man, as some it helps, I'll say.
Boy howdy, this show's crazy. All
Yeah.
right. So we've got possession. We've got last person who rode the vehicle, which I'm really hoping was Sam, because that vehicle's way too old.
Yeah, it's a liability at this point. Don't drive
I
that
mean,
around anymore.
just like take it to trade shows and whatnot, I guess, but like show it off because I guess it's a what's it called when it's old? Antique?
Antique. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, don't drive that anymore. So many deaths because of that vehicle. All right. So we've gone possession, we've gone last person who wrote it. Uh, we could go the route of God power.
Yeah, both the fact that God himself called it the most important object in the universe and that God teleported it. So like, I don't know. I assume the assumption that was made in the episode was like, "Oh, God saved us. Cool." But maybe God was like, "Oh, that's my car I like. Get it out of there. What's going
Okay,
on?"
okay. Fair enough. I can get behind that. Let's go the biological route. Now Sam did have sex with someone in the back of that vehicle.
That is a memory it holds, John.
So if there were some sort of like monster that uses
Yeah.
like previous biology to replicate or anything, like I don't know, vampires or something. I got very little to go on here, but there was a lot of sex had in that vehicle, I'm sure,
Yeah.
which leads me to think that there's got to be a lot of biological matter or particulates all throughout that vehicle, and maybe a monster turned it into a biological creature somehow. Maybe this vehicle is now a Winchester.
Yeah, see, my main thing that I feel like I'm going to be coming back to this whole episode is that God called it the most important object in the universe.
Which, if it wasn't true before then, would immediately have to be true.
Yes. So, and presumably he was talking about how it made Sam reject Lucifer possessing him and trap him in hell again, of course. You all know this. Uh, but what if he wasn't? And he's saying, man, that's what started the Carsverse. And I think I don't like, I got to be absolutely clear. I don't like the fact that you said that maybe some of Sam and or Dean's genetic materials just got in the car and a monster did some stuff to it and it made it a baby car. But
Mm-hmm.
man, honestly, in this universe, I don't know that I can reject that out of hand.
True, 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 true. Side note: at the
Yeah,
beginning of the episode, I was really hoping that the murderers, the serial killers, were just straight up going to be regular people. I was
that
hoping
I
that it was going to be a thing where, like, oh, supernatural things don't happen anymore, and Sam and Dean just go around murdering people viciously because they think they might be vampires.
yeah, it's like Dexter, but they're weird.
What else could it be? There's the idea that, all right, so I've been reading Brandon Sanderson or listening to Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere again, and he believes, well, not he believes, in his Cosmere, there are three realms: there's the
Sure,
physical realm, the cognitive realm, and the spiritual realm. And in the cognitive realm, also referred to as Shadesmar, uh, the idea that people have of something exists in a like physical manifestation, and the idea is that if you idealize something, if you think of something in a certain way, it will be that in the cognitive realm.
sure.
So if you think of the wind as like in some way personified, it will be in that world. So that's why you'll see things like there's the Stormfather, who is something called a Sprin of the storm, and he's just this really aggressive, angry force of nature type character who's hard headed, strong willed, and all that. And he's just like what you would imagine a personified storm being. So mayhaps that in Supernatural, believing and investing all your time and energy into this car gives it its soul.
Again, I'm not sure there's anything too outlandish to throw at the wall here. You know, for
Okay.
supernatural. Uh, so I think that's a solid idea as any. I will say this is something I've just thought of, but you know how ghosts are a thing in supernatural?
Mm-hmm.
You know where else ghosts canonically exist?
Um, Give me a moment.
No, it's
The
like
obvious answer is cars, but
yeah.
uh, I'm gonna think of something funny.
I have no doubt you will, bud.
The
I
real
believe in you.
world.
Oh, another banger from John. But yes, ghosts do also canonically exist in the Carsverse. We know this because Stanley's ghost appears at the end of Radiator Springs 500 and a half. So that's at least a connection we've got there.
That ghosts do in fact exist in both worlds.
Yes,
Well, Lucas, have
because
I got a story for you? Did
sure,
you
man.
know that cars exist in both the supernatural world and in the cars world?
Okay, now
So
there's
we've
a
got
second
cars and
connection.
ghosts. That's two strong connections.
Yeah, and I think that gives us some strong evidence that maybe it's just we've seen a car get possessed by the ghost of its former owner before in racist truck routes 666. So maybe that just becomes more prevalent and not exclusive to racist trucks, you
Okay,
know?
okay. So what you're saying is that the first the first living being in the soon to be cars world was a racist.
Yeah, and I'm not happy about that. But if it probably got like murdered by the Winchester brothers. I don't remember season 1 of Supernatural, but I gotta assume they killed the racist truck,
I
or at
don't
least
know.
exorcised the ghost.
Supernatural's not exactly great at doing the culturally, I don't know, correct, sensitive thing.
That's true. Uh,
So I have a feeling that maybe they just let the racist car slide.
I'm gonna say, especially in season 1 when it was like fully just monster of the week. As go over here, there's a truck that's killing people. They've got to. They had to have. They had to have, right?
I hope so, but I feel like what they did is they probably just like drove it into a bog and let it drown. But it's a car, so it's not going to drown.
They probably exercised it or something. I'm gonna. They did a lot of exercising of ghosts in season 1. I remember they tricked it into driving onto hollowed ground and it exploded, and then they burned it. Uh,
Oh yeah,
you know,
I remember that now.
you know how anyone would deal with a possessed racist truck. Uh, so I would say
Mm-hmm.
fairly definitively the truck's probably not still kicking around the cars first, which is good. So the truck's not in the cars first. That's good. Who knows about the racism of the other cars in the cars first? But if it is this ghost world, that's a good explanation of it just being more and more common for, I don't know, I guess people to have unfinished business and possess their cars about it.
Fair enough. All right. So we've biological possession, God powers, the idea of it having a soul. There's a ghost connection somewhere. All right. How does supernatural world get transformed into car world?
I think, okay, it's the most important object in the universe, so it has to have something to do with the Impala, no matter what direction we go, I feel like. So,
I mean, we could easily just say Impala is Adam.
yeah, like that was my first thought of the Impala is the first of the car people. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe they don't know New God Jack as much as they thought, you know? He's like, "You know what? It's about cars now." Or maybe the Impala got to heaven, it was granted some sort of sentience to be able to ascend to heaven. Maybe it just took over up there, you know? It did whatever
Okay.
they did to Chuck or whoever the god they killed was, and to Jack, and was like, "No, now I'm God." Maybe the Impala's God now, in the cars first.
Okay. So they really wanted to like gloss over the whole mistreating Cass thing.
Yeah.
So in the final episode, they introduced the idea that heaven was reformed by new God
Hmm.
and Cass helped. And they just didn't explain any of that because they don't want to get into it. Uh
Why have him confess then?
so what if
Whatever.
Cass and Jack were like, "Oh, this car is pretty cool." And then they like jokingly were getting like, "Oh, well we can just change everything. Let's make more Impala."
Okay.
And then they just one small mistake cuz he just became divine, like super divine.
Yeah.
So like one small mistake in all of this alteration and oh look, this car is now sentient. This car is now able to procreate.
Oops. I mean, you gotta understand these mistakes of a young, fresh god like that. Uh,
Mhm.
but they do happen. We are asserting. So
As we've talked about before, even like young demigod Heracles, he killed his entire family. So
yeah.
accidentally making one car able to bone, that's a lot more understandable a mistake.
Now the thing is, he does need to make two cars able to bone if we're going with classic procreation, human style
Uh,
procreation, if you will.
life finds a way.
Solid. Uh, solid way to just not answer my concern. But
All right, so in Jurassic Park, they never said necessarily that the dinosaurs became male. It's just that the females somehow were able to procreate.
no,
So what I'm saying is the Impala is named as a baby.
Dean calls it baby. Yeah.
So when they idealize this car, they idealize it as being a female or woman. So maybe they accidentally made it a Jurassic Park dinosaur situation where life finds a way
Now,
and it just lays car eggs.
I have asserted that they come from eggs before, so I'm glad that we got to that. But I think there's an even more classically religious way they could make this car reproduce, John. It's coated.
They take some of the pieces,
Well, yeah, that could be.
they
That
take its
actually
rib.
is even more classic, I guess. But I'm talking immaculate conception, my friend. What if they just
So
got
what
the
you're
car
telling me
pregnant?
is that you don't want to think about having its rib removed and then another car being formed from it. You want the new god to have boned the vehicle.
I don't want any of it to happen. I gotta be so clear about that. But I think
Okay.
that, you know, it might be what happened. I don't want it to be what happened, but I think maybe New God Jack got the Impala got the Impala pregnant immaculately.
Immaculately. All right.
Yes.
Now, what if instead Cass wants to be with Dean?
Oh, he sure does.
So Cass goes and meets Dean. But Dean, as we've mentioned, drove for like straight up 40 years.
Okay.
So Cass goes to be with Dean and can only really interact with this driving vehicle. Cass starts talking to the vehicle and falls in love with the vehicle.
Okay. Now wait.
Cass becomes a vehicle. Cass and the Impala are now the progenitors of the new future.
Okay, I've got another one here. We really should explore one and not just keep naming them, but both of us are too stubborn for that. But do you know what the
Very true.
Impala's license plate says?
KAZ.
What if that's a good old Kaz?
What if the Impala's
Kaz
Cass? That's what I
Castiel.
was thinking. So maybe
Maybe maybe Cass was in the finale.
Dean and Cass eventually fall in love and make things work, and then
Only in Spanish.
like it's a thing where 'cause so Dean is able to, because it's heaven, have sex with his car,
Of course.
and
If he can't, what's heaven for, you know?
Cass and Dean procreate,
Oh
one of
god.
them being a human, one of them being an angel car,
It's the
which is why some cars, aka Mater, have divine powers, because he is the child of an angel and a human.
okay, now that's something. Okay. Okay. Destiel, this is how Destiel can still win. Okay. We've said a lot of things in the last bit.
But we finally got into the only theory we actually think is best.
Yeah, of course. It's that Castiel's the car. He's the car. And honestly, the way they handle, Cass and Dean in the past, I wouldn't put it past them to do that. To be like, oh, this is how we do good representation. Let's turn.
The only way that this couple will ever happen is if we turn one of the characters, the only one that is confirmed to be a gay man, into a woman car,
A female
so
coded
that
car.
the straight man can bone him.
This is more acceptable to the writers of Supernatural than the two men just getting together. I am a big
A
fan
man
of this.
having sex with his car is far more acceptable to them than two men.
We want Cass and Dean to get together, but Cass is a man. Let's just turn him into a lady car. This is how they've done it. Okay. Who
Now, we we have to make sure that it's a lady car,
Yeah,
because I don't get it otherwise,
yeah,
because of my big old man brain.
I will vomit on the spot if Dean falls in love with a man car. But if it's a lady, that's pretty hot actually. So, okay.
See, with all of Supernatural, I would say that he does sexualize some strange things like his car quite a bit,
Yeah.
and pie.
Yeah, he does play.
So I didn't pay enough attention to Cass as a character, because Cass frustrated me quite a bit. But I don't think he ever expressed interest in being a car.
Now, I feel like that's something we would remember. Uh, is Cass me just casually dropping like, man, I wish I could be that car. That was my Misha
Which
Collins, I
brings me
guess.
to my biggest problem with this theory.
Okay,
My biggest problem with this theory,
then it's certainly the only one.
of the situation of Cass becomes a female coded car
Sure.
so that they could fall in love,
Uh huh.
it feels like Dean would be far more likely to want to be a car.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't think you could poke a hole in the
So
theory, John, but you've done a fairly effective job.
so that's my one and only real problem with this whole situation, is that I feel like Dean would want to be the car.
Yeah, but it doesn't say DEN on the front on the license plate, so. And I will point out that yes, also that is just what the license plate was in the first season, and it was probably a callback to that. But you know, time is all wonky. They said so. Maybe, maybe
Also,
the
Cass is spelled with a C and an S.
and that's some evidence. Who cares? Cass is the car. He's always been the car. Probably not. No, I'm not gonna say that. But the thing.
Lucas, what if Cass was always the car?
Okay, I did say that, and I said probably not, and then I thought, now wait a minute.
It would explain why Cass was in love with Dean.
It would also,
Because Dean never gave up on that car.
yeah, and I was going to say he never gave up on Cass either, but he went to Turbo Hell and he was like, well, guess we can't get him from there. Even though every other time someone has died, they've been like, cool, let's just go get him. But yeah, it would also explain my other problem with our theory is that all this is happening in heaven. How do we get the sentient cars back to Earth? And
See,
if
that's the thing. There's already an Impala on Earth that
true,
is spiritually connected to that Impala.
okay, keep going.
What happens in heaven happens to that Impala too.
If the car gets pregnant in the game, it gets pregnant in real life, folks.
But only if it's Destiel.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're saying. I guess that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're saying is that. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Is okay. Is Dean and Castiel the Impala's son Mater?
No.
Okay. Do you have
That is all.
okay, sure. Uh why not?
Because an Impala wouldn't give birth to a truck.
Yeah, that'd be
Now hear
far
me
too
out.
silly, John.
Now hear me out.
Okay. Sure.
Maybe it's like a grandson situation where like
Okay.
the Impala has some sort of vehicle that then procreates with like a semi truck. So their child is just a regular truck.
Okay. Yeah, and that would like Mater is almost all powerful, but I'm not gonna. We have said he's all powerful in the past, but I'm gonna say he's probably not
Mm-hmm.
all powerful. So that power is diluted a little
See, here's
bit.
the thing. Maybe he is uh, all powerful, but not all knowing. So he's got like
Yeah,
half of it.
and I will say,
And we've seen angels just warp reality to their
yeah,
whims before, so there is that.
the length of Angel's powers is pretty illy defined in this universe. But one thing I do remember happening is that Castiel can travel through time because I
Mm-hmm.
think he goes back in time and stops the Titanic from sinking, which is weird. But also, I'm
Oh,
also just remembering, oh wait, that Dean goes back in time and convinces his own father to buy the Impala.
mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what that means, but that means something, John.
Who we have already discussed is in fact Castiel.
And I've got to assume it was some sort of angel magic that sent him back in time. Obviously, I don't remember, but that's usually how they traveled through time in Supernatural, as far as I remember, is angel magic. So I probably cast
I
if
remember there being that specific episode, but not how the time travel occurred.
so maybe whatever reason he got sent back in time was a red herring, and the real reason was
Mm-hmm.
Cass was like Cass knew somehow. Did Cass know he was the car?
Mm-hmm. Was Cass before he was the car, or was the car Cass before the car was Cass?
That's so important. My first instinct is he was
I'm
Cass,
thinking
then the car.
I'm thinking that due to time travel shenanigans, they're both Cass
Sure.
at the same time, but they're different Casses.
Okay. So they're like
Because
parallel
they
timeline
mentioned
Casses?
offhandedly, not exactly, I think it's just they're both Cass, but they're different presentations of Cass at the
Okay.
same time. Because they've mentioned before that angels have ridiculous forms. Like one of them said, my other form has 5 heads and one of them is a lion. And like, what's to stop someone from just being an angel who had 2 bodies, one of which was a car?
At the same time. Okay. You know? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that like Castiel is not the version we see is not his like true form. You're right. It's a person he is occupying named Jimmy, I think,
Yes.
which they had to have explored that
Sounds
he
right.
just stole a man. But that's wild.
Oh, they did. They had an entire episode about like
His
that
wife came and
man
tried to get him
being
back or something.
alive again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it is wild to be thinking this much about supernatural in the year 2020. It's like things in corners of my mind I thought I would never dust off again. I'm okay. Anyway, uh, I think I like your theory that it's him at the same time. To me, it still makes a little bit more sense that he went through the events as Jimmy Castiel first. He transformed into the car or possessed the car or whatever in heaven. They had a long life together, and then Castiel, ever Dean's guardian angel, went back in time with angel magic as the car and did it all again as the car.
If that was the case, though, then never mind. I was gonna say it's a paradox, but at the same time, like that's the least of their problems.
Yeah, they were never again. Castiel stopped the Titanic from sinking once. They're not careful with time in this show.
They went to our universe and I think ended up killing themselves or part of the production crew.
Yeah,
Who knows?
like it's they there was an episode where they went to Scooby Doo. They went and were in Scooby Doo. So like we can say whatever we want. Okay, okay.
Sam and Dean have both died multiple times.
Yeah. So I think Cass is the car. Uh, that's I don't know. Yeah, he's the car, and the car gets pregnant.
Let's bring up the fact that Sam was half demon, and that just stopped being a thing at one point.
I remember he was
Like it
possessed.
just stopped ever mattering.
He was possessed by Lucifer for a while, and then he was possessed by a good-ish angel for a while. Remember, Dean got the scary knife that Cain had, and that made him infernal-ish. When was Sam a demon?
Mm-hmm.
Lucifer?
At the beginning of the show,
Okay,
no,
whatever.
at the beginning of the show, they explored that Sam was being prepared with like this weird group of people that were all partially demon, and then they started drinking demon blood to activate their demon powers.
Oh
And
yeah.
then nothing ever came of it.
Gosh, what a bonkers show. Okay.
Like they just completely dropped that forever.
One thing I want to if we're just doing random things real quick is and this was in the hour and 45-minute video I watched about the history of Destiel. Apparently they did a little thing like a retrospective along with the finale, and in it Jensen Ackles is like, Cass is like the third Winchester brother, which is very funny to me because they do canonically have a third brother. Uh
Mm-hmm. Who is just
who's just in
a
hell probably
fractured
still.
and destroyed man who was tortured by Lucifer.
Good show.
Yep.
Okay, so the car is Castiel. It gets impregnated by Dean. This starts the Carsverse. One thing I want to get into,
All right.
I can't take credit for it because it was in Danny's tweet that they tweeted at us. Let me find it right quick. I had it open and now I don't. And that's on, quite frankly, guys, that's on me. Okay, Danny sent this post, which was made by a Tumblr user Vampire Apologist, who was talking about how the car went to heaven, of course, and said, and in it, I'm paraphrasing, but says, "Never mind, my friend just told me on the phone that she thinks the Impala ascending physically to heaven is what creates the Catholic canon in Pixar's Cars universe." So Vampire Apologist's
Okay.
friend is absolutely correct that the Catholic canon does exist in the Cars verse.
Mm-hmm.
And the Catholic canon, like, super exists in Supernatural, in that all of it is literally true. In that, like, there are angels who come down and fight demons all the time on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think,
And also in the Carsverse, the Pope is a vehicle who
yes,
specifically rides around in a vehicle,
that's true.
which could be a reference to the real world parallel in Supernatural of it all starting with a vehicle that had a person ride around in it.
Now that's interesting. Okay. You think it's less just a full reference to the Pope Mobile and the glass shielding and more religious symbolism of the
I
first
think
folk.
I think it's beautifully woven together to be both at the same time, just like Cass.
Wow. That's pretty good. So I think, of course, yes, that the car ascending to heaven and it just descending from the supernatural universe is a perfect explanation for Catholicism existing. You know,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know how much we can get into that. I just wanted to mention that was a part of the thing that Danny sent in.
We've gotten into it. It's confirmed.
Yeah, like it's so easy to do if we're saying that Cars is a descendant of Supernatural because it's so prevalent in Supernatural, but the fact that the car ascends to heaven is even more proof that, you know, the cars ascend to heaven, I guess, in Cars.
Mm-hmm.
Have we talked about the afterlife in Cars much? We've talked about religion existing. I
A
don't.
lot. Talked about ghosts and death a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm talking heaven, hell, purgatory. I don't think we've talked a ton about those. That's an episode.
Uh, well,
Not this episode though. You'll have to tune in. I don't know.
what if Cars is purgatory?
Now, okay, this is the supernatural episode, and we have seen purgatory because Dean gets sent there for reasons I don't remember. Something about the Leviathan?
And purgatory, yep, purgatory is the woods, but
Yes.
specifically the woods where your soul can be killed.
Yeah, like don't monsters get sent there when they die so they get hunted by monsters
Mm-hmm.
constantly? Yeah. That's what
It's a
purgatory.
bunch of monsters hunting themselves.
Yeah, that's what purgatory is in Supernatural. So I guess that's what purgatory is in the Carsverse.
But if you think about it,
I'd love to.
what are the cars if not monsters?
They sure, they sure are, bud.
So, what my theory is that purgatory is just all of the monstrous vehicles have finally ran down all the other monsters and beaten them and created their own car society.
Okay, okay. So that creates a separate universe from Supernatural. It doesn't have to be our Earth. It's the humans still exist, I guess, but in purgatory,
Hmm.
it's just the car human hybrids that started. Well, I guess the car human angel hybrids that started with Dean and Castiel. When they die, they go there, and it's only them. Okay,
Hmm.
a
So
wild
they don't need
thing.
to go back to Earth.
Yeah, they just go to is when I guess when Dean and Castiel's son and or daughter gets got, it goes to purgatory. It never needs to be on Earth. But I do, if we're going with supernatural, I do like the idea of future like hunters having to deal with like, oh gosh, it's one of those weird car things. Okay, how do we kill it?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine Sam and Dean in purgatory hunting down Mater?
Well, one, they'd lose fully.
They would lose so bad.
Yeah, he'd turn them into Dalmatians like he does with other vehicles. But they would be with
That was a
okay.
much more pleasant image than what I had in mind.
No, he would turn them inside out. He would do whatever he pleased.
He would hook them and drag them through the trees.
Yeah, but okay. Real quick tangent. Mater turns Sam and Dean Winchester into Dalmatians. Are they car Dalmatians or Dalmatian Dalmatians?
Um, Probably car Dalmatians, but let's say regular Dalmatians so that they can all talk to their dog.
That'd be fun. Is that dog that was in the finale? Has it been around for a while? I assume. Do you know?
I'd say at the most 5 seasons.
Okay, I just saw the dog and I was like, "What's this dog? I like the dog, but like they keep doing camera shots on the dog, and I haven't watched this for a long time, so I don't know the
Hmm.
importance of this dog is. Whatever. Okay, so the Cars
Good
versus
point. Good point.
Purgatory in Supernatural's universe after Dean and Carstiel. How have we just gotten to that? Carstiel have a baby and start a new breed of. I'm not gonna call them monsters because, like, I don't know if they're descended from angels. The angels weren't always good, but like Castiel and Dean would hopefully be, I don't know, semi good dads. Carstiel and Dean, I
I mean, the
apologize.
thing is, though, the famous saying is saving people hunting things. They don't hunt just monsters, they hunt things in general because there are a lot of different, like, they've hunted angels before. So, like, I don't know, calling them things seems worse somehow.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that maybe they don't need to be hunted. Maybe they are just a weird change
Let's
that
call them
happens
the
to the
chosen
world. Is that
people.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes there are car folk, and then they die, and I don't know, guess they go to their Cartopia, with Radiator Springs and everything in it.
Okay.
Well, I feel like we got there, man.
So, in this episode, they bring up that heaven used to be like a walled off area and everyone was separated.
Yeah, and you could like
What if
only
that's what happens specifically with the cars?
okay. How so?
They just decide, okay, we've got this new breed of car people showing up. Let's just give them their own section of heaven, and that'll just be that.
Listen, we don't know how to deal. These car people freak us out just so much. Let's just
We're
send
gonna
them,
give them their own heaven, and it's just gonna be that.
and like they're not like bad or evil, so we can't just like kill them. But we're just gonna send them over here. Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
All right, nice. All right, so that's how this is an origin story to supercar natural.
Ah,
Supercar natural?
Supercar Natural. Yeah, Carstiel worked a little bit better than that, but I'll take it. Isn't there something where they like soup up an engine? That's nothing. Uh, Supernatural oil.
Souped up natural. Soup car natural oil.
Yep, that's it. That's the final pun. Okay. So I kind of
Oh
liked the
boy.
purgatory idea a little bit more than the heaven idea, but both are good. So one of those.
All right, fair enough.
And that's how Destio can still win.
And I could easily see like, what if Cass, Carstiel, and Dean, they have the kid, and it is in fact Mater, and they just like first thing they have Mater do is hunt down the monsters in Purgatory to clean it up.
You know? Yeah. Yeah, I'm 110% behind that. Yeah.
That's why he's got the death hook. It's the new scythe.
It's maybe the hook is just the blade of Cain or Cain's blade or the first blade. That's what it was called. Just remade into a hook. Can't ever touch anyone with it, but he does all the time. Hmm. Oh well.
In
Anyway,
fact, it's his main form of earning money.
it's his main form of touching people, which is a shame. Who knows?
It's why all the cars have to have the metal shell,
Because
because
Mater
it
would
protects them from the effects.
immediately and accidentally, constantly.
Mhm.
We've
Because
landed.
of his bloodlust
Oh
from the
yes,
mark of Cain.
yeah. Yes, that's why he always goes and destroys lightning in his alternate universes. It's like if the
to,
tricks
to
the
satiate his bloodlust.
it's like if the trickster angel Gabriel, I think, from the show had the mark of Cain. That's Mater, baby. Uh, I guess.
He makes sure it's fun, though.
Okay, you want to go ahead and do our ratings like we do for Origins?
Um, likelihood,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say is like a, a two.
Yeah, we went.
There's there's a car in heaven. It could be anything, and that's all we've got.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go four, just because I don't think what we said is anything, but I think there are plenty of roads to the Carsverse from the Impala going to heaven. Uh,
Okay, okay.
how much fun we had theorizing on it, though. Ugh. The highest score
Watching the episode, maybe a four.
I'd give it. Yeah, I'm gonna go a two for how much I liked the specific episode, because it was disappointing, even though I haven't watched the show for 5 years.
The music was good.
Yeah, the two covers of no, one was the original. Then they did a cover of "Carry On My
Yep.
Wayward Son." But I sure did have a lot of fun saying that Castiel became the Impala. It's not a 10 out of 10. I had a lot of fun, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I didn't have quite as much fun as Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim's still my highest score.
And I'll go with a 6 out of 10.
That's fair.
Namely because it's so hard to theorize and not just talk about how ridiculous the show is.
Yeah, we really wanted to just it was dragged down by the fact that we had to watch the finale to the show Supernatural.
That, and also we had to not talk about all of the problems with Supernatural.
We
Like, did you know that the info on the show says that it's a sci-fi TV show?
That's just factually incorrect. Oh well. And again,
Oh boy.
if you really like Supernatural and or the finale, that's fine. We just didn't care for it quite a bit. We quite a bit didn't care for it. But again, we hadn't watched it for a while, so
Yeah.
maybe if we had, I can't imagine I would have liked it, but maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows? That's the end of the
Did you know
episode.
that Jarpad's gonna be Walker Texas Ranger?
Yeah, there did you know that there is a conspiracy theory that there
That
was
it's just Sam?
well, that is a good conspiracy theory, but there's a conspiracy theory that there was a full like Destiel cut of the final episodes that got scrapped because they didn't want to turn CW was like, nah, we can't turn people off of Walker Texas Ranger, which probably isn't true. I don't give the writers that much credit whatsoever. But they've much like when Sherlock ended and John and Sherlock didn't get together, there is a conspiracy that there's a secret episode that didn't get released in which they got together. So that's pretty fun.
Boy howdy.
I,
Okay.
if you want to know
Well,
more about that, again, hour and 45-minute YouTube video by Sarah Z is just wild and good.
all right. All right.
That's the end of the episode, right?
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
It's just so kind of you to you know, Lucas, let's have a weird discussion right now.
Okay.
I always thought that patronize was a word that was insulting, but a patron is someone who like supports you, right?
Yeah. So
So
I don't
would
know.
patronize not be to support or to turn someone into a supporter?
I don't know. I don't know what the etymology of that word is. I think that's a really good point. But either way, thank you for being patrons. Let's go for that. Not like in the sense that we have a Patreon, but for just listening to our shows. It's really cool of you.
Lucas, could you imagine if we had a Patreon?
We wouldn't make
We
much
would
from it.
get so much more money than our first Patreon or Kickstarter
Yeah, it
that
was
was specifically just for the 50 million animation of Mater chewing on a carrot.
yeah, it's still going by the way. It's not. I don't feel good telling you about a fake Kickstarter. But I do want to specifically say again, thank you to Danny and Al for asking us to talk about this. I probably wouldn't. I would have seen it on Tumblr about how the car went to heaven, but we may not have talked about it if it weren't for y'all. So thank you for doing that. Again, happy birthday to number one fan Faith. And if you want to be like Danny and Al and determine the stuff we talk about, you can do that. We have ideas for our episodes so last minute. So at any point, if you want to tweet or email us ideas for stuff to talk about, either for episodes like this, Origin Stories, where we talk about shows or movies that could turn into cars, or moments in history where we're like, human history, but cars, wouldn't that be weird? Or any of our other episodes, that'd be great. Or you just want to say hi. We like it when you do that. We really, really do. And you can do that at our email, which is thekachat@gmail.com, or on Twitter at thekachat. Both of those are all one word, no hyphen in there. Now, if I'd have to guess, John's going to say some stuff.
Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell anyone and everyone you think might be the least bit interested in this podcast, or even just specifically this very strange episode focused on Supernatural.
Yeah, I feel like this one could have some crossover for folks who don't normally listen to the podcast, who are like, lots of people freaked out that the car went to heaven. So if you know one of those folks, say, hey, what if it's cars? These guys talk about that. That'd be great.
All right. And until next time, remember to float like a Cadillac.
And sting like a beamer.